When you speak against the established norm, you get pushed outside. You don't get funding anymore.
Well, I think part of the problem is also that when someone defines someone as one particular occupation, and for you, you're a very talented actor. So you're a very talented actor, my opinion. And
Thank you.
So people think of you in that way, and so there's no way he's awesome at something else too.
Yeah, well, a lot of that happened, like you said, the guy that interviewed you for Rolling Stone.
Yeah, Eric.
I invited him into my home for 2 days, and I walked him through all of these things, but he had an agenda at Rolling Stone. They didn't say Terrence Howard has discovered this, that, and the other. They said Terrence Howard, a very dangerous mind. So you put that kind of...
Did they mean that in a complimentary way? I didn't read the article, so I can't tell you.
It wasn't taken in a complimentary way.
So they thought you were crazy.
They took it as crazy.
Right.
And he tells you that I had something serious, but to everyone else, I want to take you guys to something where, you remember Nikola Tesla said if mankind understood the magnificence of the numbers 3, 6, and 9, he would have the keys to the secrets of the universe. If you will go to the linchpins bonding.
Can I bring you back to the Rolling Stone thing, though, because you kind of abandoned it? I think.
No, I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'll show
they have
you
an
on
agenda.
that. They had an agenda.
Yeah.
Because remember, at the same time, they were calling me a wife beater and all of those things. And then I put out the video showing what that same woman that had painted in a black eye. Those pictures weren't made at the police station or at the hospital. She took those pictures herself, and she was blackmailing me for years because I had when we met, I was studying to be a Jehovah's Witness. I was trying to do all those things. So you weren't having any sex or any of that stuff. So we got engaged, and I bring her to my home in Philly, and I had this tape because anytime I had interactions with somebody, I'd heard that Louis Armstrong recorded everything around him. Same thing with Marlon Brando. I recorded all his interactions with people. So I was recording things, and if I'd had phone sex with some girl, I was recording that. If we were having sex, I recorded that because I wanted to make sure there was proof of, if anything happened.
Right.
But I also recorded my mother the last 2 weeks before she died, and I had that on a dictaphone. And I didn't play with computers at the time. And she was like, why you got this on the dictaphone? I can put it into the computer. I was like, oh, great. And we could keep it forever. Wonderful. You're so wonderful. I go downstairs. I'm cooking some greens. 2 hours later, I come upstairs. All of my dictaphones from the last 15 years, she has downloaded into her computer. And then I was like, no, those are my private things. Oh, no, it's okay. I can just hit delete. And so I was like, okay, great. And then 3 months later, when I tried to break up with her because we had no sexual, there was no chemistry sexually, she was like, you think I erased those things? I kept those. And I know what you've done. And she started with the blackmail. And all I really wanted back was my mother's tape. Where she told me, I know you're going to be okay, Terry. I always knew you were going to be okay. I just wanted my mother's voice back. I paid her whatever money she wanted. She destroyed that. She destroyed my name. But like I said, I thought that was a death blow. But that's what took me back when I had nothing. That's what took me back to this. And that greater being started showing up again.
And you think if that had not happened, you probably would have gone further and further down the world of acting, and you would have abandoned this.
Oh, my goodness. I had, I was doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, that gets taken away. We did a 3-picture deal with Marvel, a 3-picture deal, $4.5 million for the first one, $7.5 to $8 million for the second one, $12 million for the third. We signed it. They come back to me the week that my mother dies, and they called my agent, Charles King, he was at William Morris at the time, and they said, yeah, we want Terrence, but we want to come back for $1 million instead of the $8 million that we had agreed to. And my agent had an emotional reaction to a business decision, and he said, F you, and hung up the phone. Well, immediately they go to Don Cheadle. Oh. But instead of just doing that, they had to spin, he was terrible on set and all of these things, and went through all this stuff. And I'm calling Robert Downey Jr. I'm calling him because when I was doing the Brave one with Jodie Foster, Susan Downey was a producer with Joe Silver. She comes over to my trailer and she's like, wow, it's so amazing. Congratulations on Iron Man. It's the first time they've hired the second lead before they've hired the first. But Robert wants to go in there. And they were talking about Clive Davis and all of that. And I was like, okay, great. I'm just moving along doing my thing. And she was like, but Robert really wants to go in, but they won't see him. And I was like, I love Robert. I love what he does. I loved him in Weird Science. I loved him.
Who did they want?
They wanted Clive Davis to play him because remember, in the series, War Machine was supposed to take over.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if Robert wants to come in, so I called Avi Arad immediately. He was the producer on it, and I'm like, Avi, I hear Robert wants to come in, but you guys won't even let him audition. He's like, no, we can't bond him. I'm like, instead of the $4.5 million you want to give me, why don't you take $1 million for the bond for him if he gets and let him audition, and so he gets the part. Robert is like, I love you, thank you so much, da 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 da. Well, when this other thing happened, I'm calling Robert, and he's doing Sherlock Holmes. I called him 27 times. And I'm like, and leave a message. I'm calling his assistant. I'm like, I need the help I gave you. I didn't hear from him until 3 years later. I bumped into him at Brian Grazier's wedding. And then, but at that time I'd had Empire or whatever, and I came back, and he was like, oh, but everything worked out for you. And, that broke me a little bit, but I know how hard Robert had it.
Coming out of jail.
Coming out of that jail.